Oil has spiked today on media reports that OPEC reached a deal. TD Asset Management's Mike O'Brien is here to give us some context. We haven't heard from OPEC officially yet, Mike, but what happened today?
Well, against most market expectations, it sounds like OPEC might have actually agreed on reducing production. There's been a lot of skepticism coming into this, whether the Iranians and the Saudis could agree. The reports seem to be indicating that there was some sort of a consensus reached whereby production would be reduced to about 32.5 million barrels a day, which, to give you context, is about 750,000 barrels a day less than where we're at today. But again, this is all unconfirmed, so this is sort of the early report.
So early on, what are if you had to articulate top 3 things you're watching for as risks, what would those be?
Well, in terms of the risks, I think what we want to see is, first of all, do they do what they promised to do, which is historically one of the big issues with OPEC has always been compliance. In other words, do you get cheaters or does everybody toe the party line? So first thing to watch for is compliance. Do they actually do what they said they would do? The second thing to watch here is we've already got a massive inventory overhang from roughly 2 years of overproduction. So I wouldn't expect to see any meaningfully higher oil prices, by which I mean sort of going into the 50s or 60s in the short term, simply because we have a massive overhang of oil inventories to work through. I think the third thing that a lot of investors will be watching very carefully, if this deal proves to be concrete, is what is the reaction of the non-OPEC producers, and particularly the US shale oil players. Do we see a rush of capital raising and drilling rigs being put back to work, or is it a more restrained response? So I think those are the 3 things that most people will be watching most closely.
And on the flip side, if we talk about some of the potential benefits as a result of this production freeze, which is the first time in 8 years.
8 years, roughly.
Long time.
Yep.
What would they be?
Well, I think the most obvious benefit here is with this renewed commitment of OPEC to try to resume its former role of managing supply, in other words, managing the market. I think what that does is this establishes a much firmer floor underneath the oil price. Put another way, I wouldn't expect to see oil prices going back below, trading with a 3 handle, trading in the $30 range with this announcement on the table. So I think that's the first thing. It puts a nice floor in and around where we're at today in the mid-40s. I think the second part of this is, if you look forward, if OPEC can demonstrate to investors and to the broader market that it actually does mean what it says, and that we see them sustainably sticking by this 32.5 million barrel a day quota, I think that has the potential in and of itself to elevate the trading range for oil higher than what we've seen this year. So, for the last 6 months, it's sort of been in the 40s, low 40s to high 40s. This potentially could get us trading into the, low to mid 50s if they prove that they're going to stick with it. But I wouldn't expect a much higher reaction. I don't expect to see oil prices trading in the 60s anytime soon until we see some progress being made and working off those inventories that are out there.
So short term, what's the biggest thing on your radar next?
As I said earlier, I sound like a broken record, but does OPEC do what they said they were going to do? This has historically been the difficulty that they've had, and particularly the Saudis, which have tended to be the kingpins in all of this. Every time historically they tried to reach an agreement, a lot of the other members of the cartel kind of took a free rider approach and let the Saudis bear, most of the pain. Is that going to happen again, or are they actually all going to toe the same line here? Has enough pain been distributed for the last 2 years that all parties decide to work together on this?
Mike, thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure.
I'm Sarah D'Elia, and that's your Breaking Insight.